Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to invite Krow now. Hang on. Okay, share, guest requests. I forget how to do this every time. I think Krow may have to, Krow, you may have to request to join, because for some reason I don't remember how to do this. Invite friends to watch. Okay, I'm going to invite Krow. Okay, I sent Krow. I sent you an invite, and then you should be able to request to join. Let me know if you can or if you can't. I don't know if I'm just getting old or the thing changes all the time. I'm going to say it changes all the time because I never seem to work it. So Krow, let me know if you see the stream and attempt to send a request, I guess, to join it. Okay, there we go. And I'm approving Krow. Hi, Krow, I can see you.
There we go. That's the first step anyways.
Yeah, we have to reinvent this thing every time because I swear it either changed or I forgot how to operate it from last week.
I know what you mean. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Okay, back.
All right.
Why is that? Okay. I'll have to ignore it.
Okay. You ready? All right, we'll start. I'm Peter.
I am Krow.
This
and
is
together.
P&K Q&A, and we're about 2 more days before in our countdown to the greatest show on earth.
Oh, people have no idea. I'm watching, I'm talking to people online, and it's like, people, you need to have faith. And it really shouldn't be that hard because it's all like right out there in front of you. And I actually did rewatch that hog video that I sent you, and I'm just like picturing what it like that in DC.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to do it.
No, it's actually hilarious, and it's actually and it's fitting because, okay, I sent Peter a hog video as a joke of what's going to happen on the 20th in Washington D.C.
It's how they trap feral hogs, I think, right? Or wild.
Yeah, it's how they trap them. You set up a fence in their path, put food in there and everything, and you just leave it for a week, and you let them get used to it. And then once they get used to it, they just come in every night and just start chowing down on the free food that's in the ground. That's all set up for them. And when the time is right, pull the trigger, the gates come down, and the hogs just run in circles. just screaming. But then after a while, they're like, okay, we're in here now. And they go back to eating the free food. Taxpayers' money. Oh.
Sometime we'll figure out how to figure out how to show the video in our stream like the real podcasters do.
I know.
So I could just put that on there if I had any idea how to do it.
Yeah. It's hilarious when you think about it that way, but it's all set up. It's all ready to go. Mike Pompeo, he tweeted out the oath to the Constitution. Tweeted that out this morning. My comment back, this is generally something soldiers do before they go into battle. They reaffirm their oath and solidify their courage for the battle that's about to take place. And so I found that amusing. And so that's going on. One that I really love.
Debbie, whichever one of you it is, welcome.
Hey, Deb.
Reaffirm or remind us, for those of us who don't know, and also me, Mike Pompeo is who? I mean, what is it? What is exactly what position?
Secretary of State of the United States of America.
Okay.
Secretary of State, basically, he's the guy that decides, that advises the president on who should be sanctioned, who should not be sanctioned. He also negotiates trade deals. He's also can be responsible for bringing home American prisoners. Also, he's responsible for going abroad and arresting any prisoners that the United States has extradited. So his department, that's his department. All of that fun stuff.
All right.
Yeah. So he's got there's a lot on his plate for that particular department. And so he's kind of an important player in all of this because it's important that other countries recognize what has just happened in the United States, so that they do not panic and so that they don't start activating their military. It's Mike Pompeo's job to keep them informed of things that they need to be informed about. And so that's been his job. And another interesting thing, Mike Pence went to visit the 10th Armory Division, I think it was.
Okay. And
that is in a Q post. The Q post that's like red 1, red 2, red 3.
Oh yeah.
Yep. That Mike is Mike is there today, right now, as we're speaking. So what the fuck? We're on what, red 6? Maybe?
Yeah, I don't actually remember. I went through so much of the stuff in there was over my head as far as it was just like an overview. I just thought it was cool how the markers and the red this and that, and oh my gosh, I'd have to go through and look at them all again.
It's all right there. I did take a screenshot of it, but it's on my phone, and we've already discovered that don't touch the phone once we start streaming.
Do you remember which number?
I think it was.
Another iPad here. I can look it up actually.
I'm kind of looking right now, just quickly speeding through it. I think it was like, oh, there it is, 4414.
Okay.
Yeah, 4414, right there in front of me right now. Wow. And so Mikey going to the central location, going to the 10th Mountain 1st Marine CPSD Marine QVAR. So Mikey is there right now, and that's red 4.
Okay.
So maybe just a little bit of a catch up for people. Okay, in military terms, red 1, red 2, red 3, red 4, red 5. This is how you create your military operation. Okay, anytime a military operation, complex military operation, so that when you're talking to guys on the radio in a battlefield condition, you can't give out complex instructions because you're really only hearing half the conversation. So in a battle type situation, you need code words so that everybody knows where you're at in the plan. And in every military operation, even though you might lay it out red 1, red 2, red 3, red 4, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go in that order.
There are codes for certain conditions or certain accomplishments or some pre-agreed upon things that the various pieces of this operation use to signal each other of their status.
Exactly. So if we were in a battlefield condition, my part of part of the operation is red 2. Your part of the operation is red 5. And so if I've executed my part of the position, but everybody else is waiting in line, and command can call you and be like, execute red 5. Mm-hmm. There's no complex constructions. Enemy doesn't know what's going on because the enemy doesn't know what the fuck red 5 means anyways, but you know what it means and you can execute your part of the plan without being interfered with. And that's what this is done. We have already done red 1, POTUS Twitter removal. Red 1, that was on the 9th. And then red 2. Red 2 was also on the 9th. See, everybody's looking at Central Communications blackout, 10 days of darkness. Everybody thinks that it's going to be like, it's like everywhere's. You gotta look at everything from a different level. The blackout isn't for us. The blackout is Trump's blackout. And so while everybody's waiting for all the power to go out, all over America, yeah, you're going to be waiting a while because
context is everything.
What's that?
Context is everything. These refer to certain situations that regular civilians wouldn't maybe know about, or in certain occasions they wouldn't even detect. I mean, they'd know the president's Twitter was cut maybe, but they wouldn't know that he was referring to that as red 1, for instance.
No, and that's the way everything is meant to be. It's like any specialized field that you go into, everything has its own jargon. And the military are masters of having their own jargon, the way they talk, the way they write, the way they everything is planned out. They do this because it works. And it's the same thing as in anything that any trade. It's like, there's you have your own jargon. Mechanics have their jargon. Doctors have their jargon. The military has their jargon. Unless you're in the culture, you don't really understand the jargon. And so I mean, when you look at stuff like this, the capital letters all mean something. They don't mean anything to you and I, but someone who has been trained in military operations, those capital letters mean something. And usually it means a person or a place is what those capital letters mean. So that when you're going through this operation, when you're looking down through it, you know that the capital letters mean that you're talking about a person or a place. You're not talking about a thing. So that's why they're in capital letters, less explaining. And also it helps you so that you don't have to use that many words in a document, because the syntaxing tells you everything that you need to know. This is why we can't understand ancient languages, because we don't understand the syntaxing. And well, personally, I believe that, like, take the Sumerian text, for instance. I personally believe that when we are looking at them on a 2D surface, I think we're only getting like a half of the story. I think the Sumerian language is supposed to be read in 3 dimensions.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think that we know how to do that. But someday we will. Someday our language will be so complex that we will be able to read and write in three dimensions instead of 2 dimensions that we do right now. And when you think about it, almost like videos and are almost 3 dimensional in
Yeah,
a
I guess you could.
sense.
Yeah, and I remember in one of those stories that, in fact, I shared with you some of the stories from that author that I was telling you about. In near the end of, I think, maybe not the first book he read, not the first book he wrote, but chronologically the first book in his series. Near the end of that, some of the characters are looking for information on an ancient tablet, and they find it, and it's in a grid pattern, and the characters in a row mean something, and then the characters down means it. It's not only like one line, but the arrangement of the characters, all the characters on the page mean something as well. Not just the characters strung together, but the entire grid of characters has another meaning, I think is what he said.
And that actually, you find complex syntaxing in the ancient languages like that, and it's kind of odd that you would find it in the ancient languages. Like, take for instance the Hebrew language. If the first sentence of the book is syntaxually wrong, everything that follows is wrong. If the first sentence is wrong, which actually is kind of amusing, because the first sentence in the Bible is syntaxually wrong. Every scholar knows this. And that makes everything that comes after it bullshit. I know. And the reason why it ends up like that is because all the stories in the first, I think, 5 books of the Bible, anyways, right up to like Moses, they were all taken from another culture, mostly from the Sumerian and Babylonian cultures, and then they were adapted to the Hebrews, so that it would create national pride. And then what they ended up doing is they ended up making the ones that they had actual records for, they ended up rewriting them and making them more colorful and making the characters larger than life. So it's like the character Moses. Okay. Yeah, he did a great thing, but the Bible exaggerates his works a great deal. But that was to create a patriotism amongst the Jewish people. And it worked. It worked for 1,000 years. It's what held them together, even under Roman rule. And, right up until the Son of Man came. And then after that, everything went to shit. And we already talked about that. Everything went to shit because the Son of Man took all their demon advisors off the planet. And so these people didn't have their demon advisors to help them steer the empire. And then they started doing it the way that they thought was right, which was purely human, which was short-sighted. They didn't look to the future. And so they only lived for that moment, and they spent all their money and bankrupted the whole empire, and the people got pissed off. And that's basically, you go through history, just about every empire gets overthrown when it's starts focusing on the now instead of the future. As I mean, even in your life, you're supposed to be living in the now, but you're supposed to be planning for the future at the same time. And when you fail to plan for the future, then when that future comes, it's probably not going to be what you want it to be, because without a plan, nothing's going to get done anyways. And that's basically what has happened in the United States for the last 20, 30 years, is that all the politicians were focusing on what they could get out of it instead of what the people could get out of it. And so no forethought, just, how much money can I make in as short a period of time? And that always fails. When you go after the most gains for in the least amount of time, it never works out for you. Because in order to do that, you end up having to compromise principles in order to get that much gain. But if you plan a future and you plan ahead, and it's like, I'm going to build something, then the gains will come over time until one day you wake up and you're successful, and you're kind of scratching your head how you got there. I mean, most successful people do. They're so busy planning and working their plan that, when they finally look up and they see their success, it genuinely takes them by surprise.
I remember in Life's Little Instruction Book, I remember one that says, overnight success usually takes about 15 years.
And in a way, that's appropriate, especially for great success. I mean, I feel sorry for these people sometimes that that become like these overnight millionaires when they're like 21. And it's like most of them haven't got a clue on how to handle that much responsibility at that age. And yeah, it's great for manufacturers because they'll buy the fast cars, they'll buy the jewelry, they'll buy the designer clothes and shit like that. They'd have a great time. Whereas a person who is more responsible would be looking at putting some away for their future, and even for their future children, so that someday when the gravy train runs out, they have stores of wealth in the future so that they're taken care of. I mean, you read so many stories about these celebrities that just go bang and bust. And it's like, you hear about, they made like 50, 60, hundreds of millions of dollars, and you're just like, well, what the fuck did you do with it? Yeah, I mean, I was reading a story about one Hollywood actor. They blew like $50 million in less than 3 years. And I'm just like, how the fuck do you do that? I mean, what would you spend it on? So, probably nothing legal. So, how was your week, energy wise?
It was strange, actually. I felt energetically, I felt great. Physically, I felt kind of screwed up, but I get in the winter, I don't know, I kind of get tired sometimes and stuff. So we've been running around working on things, and we had I know the windstorm on Wednesday. We got up Thursday, and I went out and I looked out my window, and one of our shed doors is missing, and the rest were swinging in the breeze. So I had to go out and jump them to the correct side of their lower tracks and slide them back and block them again and things like that. But I wondered if I was kind of annoyed because that happened, but I thought about it later, and I thought, well, if we had braced them more strongly, well, there was one guy whose entire shed blew down. So I wonder if it was good that the doors kind of just kicked out of their tracks and were, the shed is still there. I think the structure of the shed is fine.
Mhm. Yeah, sacrifice the door to save the rest of the building.
I guess so, yeah. And then, no, the energy is really, it's really interesting. It's, I think I explained to you, I said to you one time that it feels like a vast generator, a vast power plant is slowly spooling up from one energy level to a higher one. It's slow, but it's undeniable, and it's I can definitely detect that something is happening there.
And that's expected, that everything is going to ramp up to the going into the inauguration. Even like both sides are nervous right now.
Yeah.
The Patriots, I mean, all the work that was put in is coming up to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side is nervous because they don't know what's going on.
Mm.
At least the ones that are thinking. And if they're not thinking, it's only because Michael has blinded them so that they aren't thinking. Because personally, I mean, I look at the situation that's going on right now, and I think to myself, how could these people not know it's a trap? I mean, they're just going about business as usual, and it's like, people, it's a trap. But I mean, since it's the enemy, I don't care if they get trapped. But I mean, I'm just amazed that they don't see it. I
Right.
see it. I mean, and I'm not the only one. Well, yeah, I'm not the only one, but surprisingly enough, not that many people see it. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, all hope is gone and everything like that. And it's just, and maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe nothing will happen on the 20th. But I would find that difficult to believe. And the reason why is because all avenues of relief have been exhausted. All legal avenues of relief are done. Everything's been done. Everybody's had their kick at the can, and they've all kicked it down the road. Nobody has picked up the can and dealt with the elephant in the room, which is, obvious uh, discrepancies in counting and tabulating. And so it's like nobody even wants to look at it. And so the can is just sitting there now and everybody's ignoring it. And it's like, wait a second. It's like, there are a lot of questions about the election that have not been answered. And yeah, there's people, it's like, oh, it's already been to court. The judges didn't look at the evidence. That's not a court. That's, I don't even know what to call that. And then, and now you'll love this. A guy that was, oh shit, he was charged with something, and it had to do with like trust laws and or antitrust laws, and a judge has ruled that he cannot have a lawyer. Yeah, isn't that fucked up? And that's in America.
That's very interesting.
I have no idea how the judge came to that. It's like, I thought it was everybody's right to have legal representation regardless. But apparently, in this special circumstance, you're not allowed to have legal representation. Oh, that's messed up. So I don't, I don't know. And so there's that going on. And also, I think that Trump has had the generals reaffirm their oath to the Constitution. That's another thing that has happened. So again, these things are only done when you're getting ready to go into battle. So it's like all the signs are there. Oh, and then another one of my favorites, Mike Pompeo posted a picture of 6 bottles of red wine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would have to be like, I mean, yeah, it doesn't get any more obvious than that. So, I mean, either we are being played or shit's about to go down.
Red 6.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. So, red 6 is Secretary of Defense in capital letters, which means person, underscore instruct 1. Instruct 1 is basically the opening of a sealed envelope, which would have sealed orders. Envelope only to be can only be opened by the Secretary of Defense. So the Secretary of Defense has been handed sealed orders. If so, nothing is in sequence. And then U.S. Secret Service will be activated. And the U.S. Secret Service, their only job is to protect the president. That is their only purpose. And here's the thing about the Secret Service. They can get cooperation from any branch in the U.S. government and even foreign governments if they can show a direct threat to the U.S. president. So wherever, so anything that has a direct threat to the U.S. president comes within their jurisdiction. And their jurisdiction extends outwards into other departments and other organizations. So they've got a very large latitude in which they can work. And so there's that going forward. So I would say that the only one left to be on the list is actually Red 5, which is National Military Command Central, which basically means that the military ends up coming under Central Command. And that's like only a few generals that will command the entire U.S. military. And that generally only happens if, the U.S. would be attacked. So that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. I've got something interesting that I gleaned from my interaction with in my Facebook atheist theist discussions. It took me a while to come to this conclusion, and I'm going to run it by you to see whether you concur or not, or whether I've got it right. The classic discussion between the atheist and the theist is the theist says God exists and the atheist says I don't believe you or prove it or something like that. But I'm watching the discussion about basically the assertion that President Trump is evil, and most of it is on the atheist side. And at some point, I'm going to say to an atheist, okay, now you understand how we feel when you say their assertion is that Trump is evil, and we're saying prove it, or I don't.
Yeah.
Don't think there's any more evidence on one side of the, like the theist believes in God, and there's not a lot of proof he can offer the atheist, and then it's the reverse.
I know there's not a hell of a lot.
By Trump folks.
Here's something interesting. I watched a old interview of Trump. This is like back in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And in this interview, he said something that I was like, wow, that is what this guy does. Okay, one thing that the left likes to use all the time is how many times Trump declared bankruptcy. They like, oh no, he's declared bankruptcy like 3 times. He's a grifter, rah, 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 rah. Well, this was in the late 80s, and Trump's, the interviewer asked him, and Trump just straight up said, you know what? He's like, sometimes, he says, I like to lose it all and then rebuild.
Okay.
I was like, well, he is a builder. But he says, and it helps. He says, it lets you know who's loyal when you lose it all. And he says, and it's never the people that you think. He's always surprised by the ones who are and the ones who are not. And so, yeah, I thought to myself, you know what? If you're not afraid of losing it all, and if you value the integrity of your friendships more than you value your wealth, yeah, you would do shit like that once in a while.
Okay.
Just lose it all, because if people are around you for your wealth and not for the substance of your character, they're the first ones to jump ship, aren't they? Whereas the ones that are like there because, they admire your character and they trust you, they'll hang in there with you. And they'll just be like, hey, lost it all now, but next year, who the fuck knows? And so that tells me that Trump, I'm pretty sure Trump declared bankruptcy like 3 times. That tells me that's 3 times he found out who's loyal to him and who's not. I am fairly certain that a lot of those people are probably still working for him somewheres.
Well,
and when
yeah.
And a guy like that, when he finds like loyal people, what do you think? What kind of tasks could you give those people? You could give them the type of tasks that you won't have to ever supervise. And they could be off doing things that are going to benefit you, or at least benefit your plan or your ideas. So 3 times, I imagine that Trump probably has close to 1,000 loyal people that he knows without a doubt in his mind are going to do exactly what he asks. That's powerful. Because ask yourself, how many millionaires in the world could say that? They have hundreds of people that would practically lay down their lives, if not lay down their lives for you. And I think those are the type of people that Trump has working for him out there. The type of people that would lay down their life in a second for him. And especially if these people came through a bankruptcy with him. There's no millionaire out there in the world that could say that they have people that work for them that would lay down their life. At least not people that they have paid and promised to take care of their family, which is, that's mafia style tactics. That's how mafias get loyalty. People die, they show that they take care of their family, and then that way people will, you'll die for the Don. That's another thing that is going on. I was getting a real like Godfather 3 vibe this week too. 9 cardinals or 9 bishops. Anyways, 9 priests died this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, less than a week. 4 of the top family heads, crime family heads, died this week. 1 committed suicide. What the fuck? Committed suicide? Buddy, you got all the fucking money in the world. You've got a small army protecting you. Whatever the hell you want, you just pick up the radio or phone or whatever, and you could have it at your fingertips. And he got depressed and committed suicide? But you couldn't fucking buy a shrink? You couldn't buy some happy pills? Shit makes no sense. So that one's a little strange. And 1 died of a heart attack. So, and I couldn't quite find any more information on the other 2. Just basically just their name and who they were. But it didn't say how they died, which was weird. Just said that they died. And then the other thing that happened this past week, the stepping down of world leaders. And, Angela Merkel stepped down. What the hell?
Really?
Yeah. A lot of them stepped down. And it was right off my radar until I was looking at a news clip, and the talking head said acting prime minister of Australia. And I was like, whoa, put on the brakes. Last week, it was the Prime Minister of Australia. This week, it's the acting Prime Minister. What the fuck had happened in 3 days? Yeah, the Australian Prime Minister stepped down. I think he was the first one. And then, of course, once you started looking at Australia Prime Minister had stepped down, once you asked that question, well, guess what? The other answers popped up on the search. Angela Merkel stepped down. A bunch of politicians in Italy stepped down. And some of them might have even been arrested. There's pictures of Mike Pompeo being present in a photograph, which looks like a guy with his hands cuffed behind his back being escorted across the tarmac. It's like, oh, that happened. So the stepping down resignations, basically what that means is that it means that they will be cooperating. They will have, well, they cooperated and they have a chance for redemption. They will be rehabilitated.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, they will have the chance to be rehabilitated. You got to remember things people don't want to talk about. Their bodies have been altered because of the adrenochrome. So they need rehabilitation, both mentally and physical rehabilitation. And so they will be probably taken to Guantanamo Bay, where these facilities have been set up for the people that are looking for redemption and rehabilitation. They will be going there. Guantanamo Bay is not necessarily a prison. It's a place of rehabilitation.
Okay. And that,
It's
yeah,
a place. It's a place. It was a place. It's a place of love. And the idea was born from love, compassion, and mercy to do this. I mean, the other side, the enemy would just be like, would just throw people in a hole or in a cage and just be like, rehabilitate yourself. Whereas the Patriots, under Michael's command, leadership, are merciful, they're compassionate. They even though these people are evil and have embraced their sin and have practiced inequity, they have accepted the path of redemption that Michael offered, and this is how Michael delivers. There you go. There's another proof that Michael is leading the Patriots. Because when you think about it really, really hard, do you think mankind would be that merciful and that compassionate on his own to build a huge facility in Guantanamo Bay so that these people can be rehabilitated? Do you think that's possible? Personally, I don't. I think that is like probably the greatest proof that you'll ever see that Michael is running the show.
And there's another positive outcome that I think from that. You said a bunch of people stepping down means that they are accepting the rehabilitation and so on. I imagine that at some time in the past, all the members of the swamp were given this offer and a deadline, I suppose. And so the ones that have stepped down now have accepted and are going to be rehabilitated. And once that has happened, they will be able to positively influence many of the followers they had who formerly they were influencing to do, like the radical left and stuff. That may be one of the things that turns the tide of those, because I have friends who have kind of that mindset, and they're not bad people. There's just some little, I think it would take just one tiny little tweak somewhere in some person they were listening to, or some kind of input they were getting. I don't know quite what it would be, but having Angela Merkel sing a different tune, or who knows who else, Oprah or somebody like that has been screaming at these people to that anybody to the right of Stalin is evil or whatever. Now they're saying, oh, I had this chains of heart, I learned this, or I figured this out, or something like that.
You hit the nail on the head. What will happen in the future is that these people will be recording their confessions. And their confessions will be available on the internet. And this will, not only is Guantanamo Bay going to be for their rehabilitation, it's also going to be there for their protection. That may be part of the reason why the facility is in Guantanamo Bay and not in the US.
Yeah.
Because it's a hell of a lot harder for millions of people to get to Cuba and beat down the walls of Guantanamo Bay than it would be if it was on the continental USA.
Right.
Because the crimes that people are going to find out about, I mean, it's just going to, it's going to, people are going to have a hard time recovering. And people who have lost children to abductions, I can't even imagine what they're going to be going through when they find out all this stuff, because they will now understand what happened to their children. I mean, I think that, it would probably be better for them to imagine that their child was killed by a grizzly bear than to be abducted by a child trafficker. I mean, think about that. Which is more horrific, right? And so, I mean, because at least the grizzly bear story gives you some comfort that they didn't, suffer for weeks, months, years. So there's going to be that. Um, what else will there be? I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just so much that is going to come to boil to the surface. And
the I saw when I was at university, one of the classes I took was geographic information systems, and it was in the same building that had some of the classes for people who were going into the Department of Corrections or whatever. So I got to see some of the posters and sheets and things, and one of the ones I remember is the what the officer is supposed to protect. Three things, I think: himself, society, and the offender. And that makes sense based on what you're saying, because it's hard enough to keep normal people from lynching a person who confesses to a kind of a regular crime.
Yeah.
So yeah, if these people are actually, if it's possible to redeem them, they will need to be protected for a while.
Yeah, probably for the rest of their lives.
I suppose.
Yeah, and they'll never be released back into society. And when you really think about this, it actually takes after the model that the Paradise Creator uses. Because all the angels that were involved in the Luciferian rebellion, they are segregated to the Father's planet.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest, and their existence is wholly dedicated to the Father and the keeping of his planet. They're taking care of the gardens, and just basically taking care of the planet. Everything and anything you can think of involved in the administration of the labor part of taking care of a planet. That's what these rebels are doing right now. And that is part of their redemption path. And so that will be the same path that all these people will have to take. And again, it's almost the exact same model. Again, I see Michael's hand in it, because it's not a human idea. I mean, you want to know what a human idea is, look at the French Revolution. Mm-hmm. That's how humans deal with shit. And look at all the insurrections that have taken place around the world and just in this century alone. How do humans handle it? With violence. But Michael knows that we cannot begin to embark on the path, the golden path into light and life, with violence as its origin.
Yeah.
That makes sense, doesn't it? So there can be no violence for this transition. All transitions up to this point have been violent transitions, so they'd never work. We could never start on the path of light and life with the beginning with violence, because what ends up happening is like it does in any war. Look at the history after World War II, even after World War I. You got armies killing each other. Well, that's going to create hard feelings on both sides. Oh, you're English. The English killed my brother. Or, or you're Russian. Oh, yeah, Russian shot my friend. Or, or I don't know, German, or pick any nationality. It's the same everywhere. And that just creates strife. And that strife lasts a long, long time. I mean, it took a Scottish king passing a law against families retaliating against other families for killing another family member. This king decided that, okay, if you kill somebody's family member, you bring that before the court, and we're going to settle this with, financially. You're going to have to take care of the widow, or you got to pay a fine. I don't know, whatever the judge decided. And that did more to keep people from killing their neighbors in retaliation or just period than anything else that came before. I mean, I just laugh at it because it's like, you didn't care that, if you went and killed your neighbor, you risked your son's life when he was out in the field, because the neighbor might take revenge on you by killing your son, and then back and forth it goes. Yeah, nobody bothered to stop doing that shit because of that. No, it took money. It took taking land. It took taking your favorite possession. And then finally people stopped. It's like, oh, okay. They thought twice. Oh, someone goes over there that kills me neighbor. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You do that, we might lose half our land. The king will seize it. Oh, okay. Maybe that's not a good idea. I'm going to go over and holler at him then. Okay, good. But yeah, it's like fucking shit's funny as hell sometimes. But yeah, we need to make this transition. And here's the thing, the enemy is pushing hard for violence.
Yeah.
Hard, because they know this too. They've already did it to us twice already. Remember we talked about this before at the beginning of the 20th century? We were literally poised for the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
It was there. It really was there. And they stifled it with a war, a world war.
World War I, stock market crash, World War II. Yeah.
But well, the thing was is that
you have different ideas about that, but the wars, I think, is what you're referring to, World War I and II. That all, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, the thing was is that World War I was an interruption, and it was largely successful because of all the rebuilding that took place. But the thing was is that we bounced back too fast. Okay. We recovered way too fast after World War I, faster than they anticipated. We're talking about, these demons, the enemy. And so they created the stock market crash to try to slow things down. But the stock market crash was inevitable as well. They just what they did is that they didn't so much cause the crash as they made sure that there would be no change in how the markets operated so as to cause the crash. So the market, there were already leaders in industry, Henry Ford was one of them, who were talking about restructuring the market to reflect the modern times. Because you got to remember, in those times, this was modern times for them. Like this was like, cutting edge. Like all the big tech giants that you see today. Yeah, that Henry Ford, and all the JP Morgan, all of those guys, those were the guys, and they're not stupid. They wanted to make money, and they were forward-thinking men, and so they wanted the market to be modernized so that they could keep their businesses would flourish, and also to make sure that the U.S. Small businessman would flourish, because a lot of these big industrial conglomerate companies, they understood that without small businesses, their big business could not survive, because what they were doing is they were supplying the means for the small businesses to operate. That's how they looked at things. It's like, we will provide the means for small business to operate. Small businesses will operate, and they'll buy our goods, and we've got a nice little circle going around. So they wanted to modernize, and they weren't allowed to. They were stopped. World War II helped put that to an end, because they came up with the League of Nations, and the League of Nations was going to bring the world together under a populist movement, meaning your country is your country, your language, your culture, and stuff like that, but we'll be trading and we'll be peaceful about it. So that was what. That's where that was heading. Okay, very different from what the United Nations agenda is, because the United Nations agenda is to make the world homogeneous. They want everybody to be equal, and I'm sorry to say, but spiritually we are all equal, but physically and mentally, no, we're not. I mean, there's dumb people, there's smart people. And there's everybody else is in between. And there's strong people and there's weak people. And everything else in between. So we're not all equal, regardless of what the left wants us to believe. It's like, but we're equal in spirit. And to try to create a system where it tries to bring everybody onto an equal level, no such system exists. Not in the universe. It's not something that Michael would approve of, because if you do all the work for the weak, how are they supposed to become strong? Really? And and if you do not rein in the strong, they will quickly stifle the weak. So got to have a balance there. And it's, and you only become strong through challenges. So if you have everything handed to you on a silver platter, how do you expect to become strong in spirit, mind, and body? You don't, not without challenge. I mean, you can give yourself challenges. Intelligent people do. That's what they do. Intelligent people give themselves challenges so that God doesn't have to. Because it's been my experience that God likes to go to extremes when challenging you. Whereas if you're constantly challenging yourself, God is just like, yeah, you're doing a pretty good job on your own. I'll leave you be. You're moving forward. You're building character. You're developing yourself. So And God only comes around when you might need something, which, what the hell, right? I mean, if you're able to do it all yourself, other people don't. They need to have external challenges come to them in order for them to grow. This is how the worlds of time and space are set up. It's, so that you will grow in character and in spirit and become stronger. And then and qualify for soul survival. Weak characters do not qualify for soul survival. Sorry. That's just the way it is. And the thing is that on this planet, the Son of Man gave us a shortcut. A lot of people don't realize this. He gave us a beautiful shortcut. What does the New Testament say? I stand at the door knocking, uh, just just waiting for you to invite me in. Once you do, I'm in. Is that how it goes? Essentially,
something
yes.
like, yes.
So what that is that's a metaphor for the morphogenic fields. The Christ consciousness of Jesus is in the morphogenic fields of this planet. And it surrounds us and it permeates us and is just waiting for us to allow it to move through us and change our vibration. That's all it's waiting for. And when you give that energy, that Jesus energy, the energy that he put into this morphogenic field by living a life in the flesh on this field, you let that energy go through you and permeate you, then you begin to exhibit the character and personality of Jesus. And then that ends up influencing your character, strengthening it, and developing it until finally one day you wake up and you are a completely different person. You don't allow people to use you as a doormat. You have convictions. You stand for something. You don't just agree with everything that people tell you anymore. This is what it is meant to have a strong character, is to know yourself and to understand where you stand on certain issues. And, it's like, I would sooner trust someone who has, I don't know how to describe it, who has convictions in, like, strange convictions about certain topics, as opposed to somebody who has no opinion whatsoever. I think the person with no opinion is more dangerous because it means that they'll follow anybody, and it's not somebody that can be trusted. At least the guy that I don't agree with, at least he believes in what he believes, as opposed to someone who believes nothing. That's scary. And besides, you've come across people that don't believe in nothing. They got dead cow eyes anyways.
So another example of how weird the energy has been this week. I was talking with some folks. First I commented on a post somebody made about they were astonished when they heard Christian. It's an atheist. They were astonished when they heard people talking about Christianity and Catholicism as if it were two different things. And I said, kind of being serious, but sort, say, well, it's. I said that the Catholicism added a bunch of extraneous fluff to a bunch of extraneous stuff that doesn't really belong. Anyway, and we got kind of into a discussion about that, and I kind of told them what I believed and so on. And yesterday night or this morning, I guess, they I'll have to fill you in a little bit on the backstory of this. I was explaining what the main tenets of Christianity were, is the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man and adding value to society. And they wanted me to quote where in the New Testament those were, and I said, okay, I'll take it. Give me a couple days, I'll find them. And they said what, and that kind of upset them, I think, because they seemed to think that I was making these claims without having any, and they said, so you made the claims and haven't done any research. And I said, well, I'm sure there's passages in the New Testament that reflect it. I just don't know them off the top of my head. And this morning, I don't remember exactly what the post was, but basically they said, you've had long enough or something like that. I'm not sure what response I want to give, because it's not labeled as a debate group. It says, it's called atheism and theism, or atheism versus theism maybe. But the description on the sidebar, or the little about thing, says we try to have debates, discussion, and dialogues between atheists and theists, et cetera, et cetera. So I was going to tell them where I stood on that. I'm not interested in debates. I'm in the discussion and dialogue part. And basically what I'm doing is throwing my 2 cents in for others to take or leave or pick up or whatever. And then the other thing is, I'm only on Facebook a couple of times a day, and so on, et cetera, et cetera. So and the discussion involved a couple of people I'm fairly familiar with in the groups now, and this was slightly atypical for behavior for both of them. They were kind of, I don't know if they took it personally that I just said. So it's just weird. People are acting a bit strangely, I think. And I do want to explain to them, maybe they didn't know where I was coming from really at all, but I think they were going on an assumption, and I just blew it out of the water for them by saying, oh, let me take a look at the Bible and see what passages support my interpretation of the basis of original Christianity or whatever. as if I hadn't read the New Testament before or looked in it. I mean, it was true that I couldn't quote any passages off the top of my head, but whatever. So I'm trying to figure out a polite way to explain all this to these people, and I just want to get kind of snarky with them. But I know it's not. I shouldn't do that. It's not me, and it's not a good idea.
Well, my first thought goes through my head is that, I mean, your statement, I'd just be like, if you can't, if they cannot discern the truth of your statement, then, yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I was gonna put in something in my second point about having the discussion in good faith, and I get a little righteous and say, well, I put these things out here for the right people to pick up on. I don't care what, and I wouldn't say it like that, but I put out my 2 cents for people to pick up with or not, and it's I'm not going to hold it against you if you're. I don't know. I got to figure out.
You could always say that you're not talking to them. You're talking to the Spirit of God that dwells within them. So if they don't hear it, that's fine, but their spirit does. And quite frankly, that is exactly how I deal with these people.
Yeah.
Because I've said it before, I don't really know what these people need, but the indwelling thought adjuster does.
Yeah.
So I talk to this thought adjuster. I give the thought adjuster mental ammunition.
Right.
So you drop a seed in somebody's brain, and it's something that the thought adjuster can use to help connect the dots, because that's what the thought adjuster does. He helps, he organizes your spiritual thoughts, and so that your spiritual thoughts will come in proper alignment, so that the potential for you and your thought adjuster fusing. And so that's how a thought adjuster works. And the more you are honest with yourself and your thought adjuster and willing to go along with the plan, the easier the thought adjuster's job is, because you don't lie to yourself. You're building strong character. You do everything that you need to do, and your thought adjuster takes all of that and just starts putting all the pieces into place, kind of like building one of those stick molecules in chemistry class. Everything is all connected in a certain way, and so until, and it has some flexibility. There's actually a name for that type of structure that is held together by both, that it's only built with two components. The components that are in tension remain in tension, and the components that are in expansion remain in expansion. And you can build this structure in such a way to balance the tension and the expansion forces, so that the structure will actually hold itself together.
Okay.
That's the kind of work that the thought adjuster is doing in your mind on a energetic level, until the two of you come into alignment, because you need to be fused with your thought adjuster in order to make the journey to paradise. You can't make the journey to paradise without a thought adjuster, period. And the thought adjuster can't go back to paradise without you tagging along. But since God will devour anything that he does not recognize, it is important that you're fused with your thought adjuster before you stand before God, or God will devour you immediately. Because the thought adjuster is a piece of God gifted to humans, or or intelligent willed creatures of the universes, so that the intelligent willed creatures can have the experience of traveling to paradise and not be devoured by God, by the Father. Life feeds on life. That is the truth of the universe. Life feeds on life. And God is both glorious and horrific all at the same time. That's, and yeah, glorious because he built the universe, horrific because we lack understanding. But once you understand, then everything balances out, because now you understand the glory and you understand the horrific nature of God. Both pieces come together, balance out, and you're just looking at God, the eternal Father, as a person, because that is what he is. He's a person. with a personality, the father of personalities. The sooner you get that in your head, the better off you're going to be.
So I'm trying to see my way forward. I don't know what's going to happen on the 20th and beyond, and I'm trying to figure out if you know what you were talking about, what you said that I should say to these people on Facebook. I thought of saying things sort of like that, but if I was waiting until after the 20th to get to like go on the offensive or be aggressive or something, because then I might have an idea, and I don't know if I even would at that after that. But I want to. I'll tell you another story. I think I mentioned this before, but in the atheist theist group, shortly after I joined it, there was a member in there who was, I guess, shall we say, likes to debate, and he's an atheist. And we got into my you know, talking about my brand of theism, and he kind of raked me over the coals about why I was even a theist. And I just said, well, you know, I am. I don't. It's not because there's a book. It's not because somebody told me. It's because I have difficulty believing, or I have difficulty not being a theist. And fast forward 8 months, he actually recommended me for this other group I told you about, Leaving Theism. Said you would be an addition to this group. So I was, you know, he got pretty aggressive, and I was always even. I tried to be even-handed with him, and you know, because I don't know if some of these people have like an attitude problem, or if they're mental problems, or I know a couple of people who internet while drunk, and I've heard what happens to them. They just go off on people in chats, and they've had to be ejected from chats and things. So I didn't know what was going on with this guy, but I guess it's an example of the, how does it go? Be mindful in all your dealings, because many have entertained angels unawares, kind of thing. And some of these people, and it doesn't just happen with angels, but in, say, inductions into secret societies or fraternities or things like that, there are people who you don't know. They pretend to be kind of a little aggressive, or they test you to see if you're just going to blow up at them or whatever. And I kind of know that those people exist, and I also want to give people the benefit of the doubt, or set an example for other people reading the chat, because there's enough acrimony on the internet. I don't need to add to that. And I usually don't. So anyway, it paid off with this guy. It's like, yeah, you would be an addition to this group who's helping theists who have been questioning their faith, either become atheists or become a very different kind of being or something like that. So now I'm in that group.
The thing is that you said that you have this urge to like be like, I told you so. And the thing is that you're not the only one that feels that way. There are millions of people that feel that way, and it does kind of amuse me, because I know that once the opportunity comes to be like, I told you so, these people are going to be so devastated that you're not going to find it in your heart to be able to say it anyways. You're going to be like, oh, fuck. Now I got to help these dumbasses. That'll be the position that we'll probably be in after all of this, is that, you know, as much as you'd be like wanting to tell them to fuck off, it's like, no, it's okay. It wasn't your fault. The programming, we were programmed for 1,000 years. We've been lied to for 1,000 years. Easily 1,000 years we've been lied to. We have no idea what our history is. We have, none of us, most of us, haven't even got a clue what a real family unit is. I mean, my generation, just complete dysfunctionality all over the place. I mean, you know, when you look at the way things should be, you know, mother stays at home, raises children, father goes out to work for a short time, comes home, teaches his children stuff. Mother's teaching, everybody's learning. And your parents, you respected your parents because they raised you and you loved your parents. Now you got kids that just, you know, I mean, they're shouting across social media just how much they hate their parents. Some even wishing that they were dead. It's like, what kind of fucked up world is this? And, you know, Denzel Washington, I'll tell you, he says it best. Every time a newspaper reporter tried to corner him on some kind of like black issue, he's got the same fucking answer every time. It blows my mind every time he says it. All starts in the home. Where are the dads? What are the mothers doing? So you want to know why all these black kids are in gangs and everything? He said they got no father at home, so they go out and they find a father in the street. He said, that's where your problem starts. Straight up, every time, just like that. And the thing is that he is correct on every point. If the fathers were not in jail, they'd be raising their sons. Why are they in jail? Probably a multitude of reasons. A lot of them have to do with unfair laws, mostly, that are basically, I mean, some laws make it almost illegal to be poor. Holy fuck. And now we're heading for, oh man. Man, if the plan does not work, we are heading down a road of dystopia. And then there'll be a war. People will stand up, they'll fight, and we will not be able to start on the path of light and life. And this could end up being 1,000 years of hell instead of the 100 years that we are delayed right now. I don't know. I mean, unless there's another chance for us to go into light and life in the future, I can't see it. I think that it's now or never, personally, because we have never been where we are right now. The whole world is connected. See, before in the past, when these shifts would occur, they'd be localized. You could have complete and utter tyranny in one region of the world, and that would not influence the rest of the world. The rest of the world would just go on its merry way. Now we are in the novel position that if the United States falls, all other countries are influenced by that event. Regardless, like, you know, even her enemies will fall to their knees when America falls. China thinks that they'll win, but if America falls the way that they want it to, they will lose too. And they don't even know it. Not right away. There'll be a period where they will have, you know, they'll have lots and they'll be on top, but that's only going to last for one generation. And then after that, very, very quickly, it's going to go into the toilet. And they don't see it. All they see is that they want to win at any cost. And yeah, they don't understand that it's all going to come back on them. So it's either now or never. as far as I can see. And I'm wondering if I should tell you or tell our viewers this vision. It came to me on Thursday night, and I've been thinking about it, and I'm not sure if I tell it, it's a crazy vision. I mean, it's fucked up. And it was vivid.
What's it about, or what's the general subject of it, I guess?
Well, the vision starts with the inauguration.
Hmm.
I don't know what the date frame of it is, but
because I was going to ask, let me preface it with a couple of comments, I guess. Reading, or kind of inferring, intuiting, and what's the other thing? Interpolating from what we've been talking about leading up to the inauguration. And I'm still not sure exactly how he's going to carry it off. If we're going to see Trump inaugurated on, like in 2 days, when everybody's screaming that Biden's the president, like he'd have to not show up or something. But that's, I don't know what plan they've got going for that. And then the flip side, I guess, would be if somehow things go sideways, and I can easily see the question in the minds of the patriots being, are we prepared to buy the long-term security of the republic with the blood of those who don't support it? That's the question. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And once that decision has been made, all bets are, you're not going to like what's going to happen for a while. Unless, I'm hoping very much that there's some kind of thing that can happen that will convince everybody that, I don't know, or maybe it'll happen after the fact or something. But why don't you go ahead, Krow, since I think we have a reputation for talking about a bunch of stuff that's out there. Anyway, I think our viewers know that. Let us have it.
Okay. I'll let you have it. The vision starts out with the stage. Empty. Half the seats are empty. People that came in. So the bad guys were being arrested as they came in, and or they were arrested earlier that day, and nobody really knew what happened. And so everybody that wasn't affected by an arrest showed up at the inauguration, and they looked quite confused. They were kind of looking around, wondering why most of the seats were empty. And there was nobody in the audience, of course, and but lots of cameras, and yeah, tons of cameras. And then it seemed like it was around 11 o'clock. Trump comes up on stage, followed by four military, and one of them, and a fifth one. She wasn't dressed in military garb, but she was military. And Trump takes the podium, and he started explaining that something has taken place. It was not something that he did. The army had came to him and shown him things, and asked if they could go forward with certain operations, and he gave the okay. So the first part of Trump's speech was him telling people that this was not his plan. This was not him. This was the military. And he was making it very clear. And then he steps, and Melania was there. And so was all of the kids. And quite a few other people, actually, people that were in his staff that are loyal, they were on stage too. They came up the ramp, but they came up behind everybody else. And so the military generals, they stepped back and they were lined up. And then the woman steps forward. And after Trump passes the podium over to her. And she steps forward and she starts talking. And she starts explaining things. And she tells people who she is. And as she's talking, her appearance changes. It changes to where she starts to look masculine, but she also looks feminine at the same time. And when you're looking at her, you see it both ways at first, and then sometimes the masculine part was brighter than the feminine part, but you were constantly seeing it in both ways. And then I am seeing all this from a stage where all of the cameras are. And I'm watching all this from a distance. I'm not on the stage. And she's talking, and after talking for some time, well, during her talking, the people that are operating the cameras, they start to notice that there's a huge crowd watching the inauguration. And the crowd goes all the way back to the monument, all the way back past the reflecting pool, all the way to the monument. I forget what the name of it is. Washington Monument. And they're looking, and Buddy's like, where did all these people come from? And the cameraman, this is where things started to get weird. The cameraman turns his camera to the crowd and he says, my camera doesn't see them. He turns back to the stage. He can see everybody on the stage. He turns back to the crowd. And meanwhile, the commentator, he's telling everybody that's watching that I swear that right now, this place looks full. But the cameras, you can't see it on the cameras, but I swear. And all the news stations are saying the exact same thing at the same time. All of them. A couple of cameramen decide to jump from the staging that we're up on. And these beings down below, they catch him. And they lower him easily to the ground. And he gets up and runs. And he runs right into a post. I laughed my ass off. And meanwhile, another guy, he's hollering down at him. He's like, they are not hurting you. Just stay still. And then my attention goes back to the stage. And by this time, the woman that was talking she's changed in such a way that she looks like the creator of a universe by this time, by the time my attention goes back. And she turns to Trump and Melania and says, for their faithful and brave service. And he did say a lot more, some really touching words, especially about Melania. And during that little talk, the creator makes a declaration that he is the Lord Christ, Prince of this world, and by his authority, he made Trump and Melania co-prime ministers of the planet. And told them that they will have a long, long, long extended life. And their example, they would set the example for humanity for the next 1,000 years. And that was part of the touching speech that he gave to Melania. He said, because of your deep motherhood, that because that she not only was a mother to the children, to the child that she gave birth to, but she was also mother to the children that she did not give birth to, even to the children that she has never met. That she was basically raised above all mothers of all time. I was just like, wow. And then for Trump, for his wisdom and his patience, that is why he was given the that was his reward for being such a faithful servant through all of this. I was just like, wow. This went on for 4 hours at least. And after she was done, she went and stood back with the generals, and then she was the woman that first started talking again. She changed back. And then the generals didn't even flinch when she stood back, when she went back over to stand beside them. And then they stepped forward one by one, explaining the situation that has taken place. I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, then I was just like, that would be the craziest thing to happen on this planet ever. Ever. I was like, well, that would be biblical now, wouldn't it?
You did imply that we would find out who, remember in the first couple hundred, I don't remember the exact words, something like, you will be quite astonished to find out who is speaking to you.
I think
they would reveal who Q is to the people at some point. Now we have some theories as to who Q is, and I touched on one of them with my comment, but yeah, so I was thinking something is, you know, if it's interesting, we will at least find out who Q is, if nothing else. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. The whole time that she was speaking and changing, that you could see it both ways, the cameras didn't pick up any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, that would be appropriate, because the believers would be back to relying on eyewitness reports.
Mm-hmm.
The people that were at the event. You could review the video for the next 1,000 years and it would still be subjective. That would be Michael's style. Yeah, you might yeah, you got like maybe 300 or 400 people, eyewitnesses to the event. It's broadcast all over the world, but you still don't know if you see what you really seen. You would have to take that that last step, that last half step. That's because that's all it is just a half step, is always rooted in faith. Always. It's like I've said before, I can prove God to a certain point scientifically. I can prove God. But then there's that half step that you're going to have to make that leap on your own. I can't make it for you. We can go through the science. We can go through all the theories that exist in science today, the things that we know, the things that we can calculate. I can take you all the way to paradise. But that last half step, I can't do it for you, because everything up to that point is subjective. It goes both ways. You could say that it's a AI that controls the universe, or you can say that it's God with a personality and the father of all creation. You're always going to hit that fork in the road, no matter what. And that's where people have to make their decision. That's where Lucifer had to make his decision. He decided that it was a artificial intelligence that ran the universe, that the creator sons were bullies, that the universe would be just fine without them, that they really didn't create the universe. They found the universe and they just started taking it over. Yeah, I was created by Michael, but you know what? He didn't create this universe. That was Lucifer's attitude. So he admitted that Michael was his father, but he wouldn't admit that Michael was the creator and sovereign ruler of the universe, because he held that the universe was already here. All Michael did was come along and started fixing it up.
Interesting, because, and it goes into part of the atheist theist debate. Lucifer acknowledged, right, that Michael was his creator, his father. He never doubted that for a second, I don't think.
Nope.
Or he never. But something far less complex than a living being, the universe, Michael couldn't create that. Michael hadn't created that. The thing that cracks me up is the theists, I think, post this meme of the whatever, the Honda, that Honda robot. They say the Honda robot, you know, it's a two-part thing. In one panel is the Honda robot created by Honda, and then it tells kind of its little spec with all the call outs of its features and so on. And then the other panel is, you know, like an anatomical diagram of a human being with all of its call outs, and under it says no creator.
Oh, I know that has always amused me. And the thing is that if they understood how creation really works, then they would be able to come to a better conclusion, a more intelligent conclusion than what Darwin did. I mean, Darwin was working off of 18th century knowledge. Guy didn't have a fucking clue. Lots of observations.
They just figured out that the Earth rotated around the sun or something.
They were still, they're just. I think we had seven. We knew that there were 7 planets. The Greeks, somehow the Greeks knew that there were more. Go figure. But yeah, and I always laugh. It's like, that is still your reference, and you laugh at Christians for referencing the Bible. It's like you're still referencing Darwin. You're on the same level. You're both looking at old books and not looking at any of the modern research or even any of the modern ideas or modern developments. We've had more spiritual development in this 21st century that it is beginning to make the Bible obsolete. As far as I'm concerned, it is.
Something else I remembered from this conversation with these two people on Facebook. I mentioned the Urantia book to them, and the one fellow said, "You're trying to," I explained, "Oh well, how did this conversation go?" I explained what I figured the tenets of Christianity were, and he said, "Oh, you're trying to make up your own religion based on what you," and I said, "Well, no, it says this in the thing, or the book confirms it. I came up with this stuff, and the Urantia book kind of confirms it." And he said, "Well, how are you going to do that with a book from the last century?" And I said, many people are attempting to do it with a book that's almost 2 millennia old. They're trying to do what I'm trying to do with a book published in 1955. Like he had a problem with that.
I know.
I don't get these people, and there's some. It can't be part of the core personality. I don't think so. There's something they're hung up on, and they don't even know. It's a thing they have to work through, and I know because I was at the same place that 20 years ago. I couldn't have a conversation about certain things because I wasn't there yet. And if you tried to have a conversation with me, I'd go away or shut you down or not want to talk about it or whatever. So that's the other reason I don't want to be, I don't want to be too hard on these folks. But on the other hand, I was going to tell them, I'm not interested in debating. I think it's pointless. I'm not going to change anybody's opinion. I know how long it took for my opinion to shift on things. And the other thing is, putting in my 2 cents about spirituality is secondary to my claim that we got somebody watching. Demery. Hi Demery, how are we doing? Welcome. I've got my main thesis or premise is that it's more important whether somebody is a good person or not than whether they believe in a God or not. And I have the advantage in that position of it being unassailable almost. So whether somebody is a good person is more important than whether they're a theist or atheist. There's far less debate in that position, I think, than whether there is a God, the question of whether there is a God or not. And being a good person is a good idea. Wrong.
And you know what? I've actually said that to people too. It's like just being a good person and wanting to improve your own character. It's like, tell me where you're going to go wrong with that. I dare you to. It's like, and that's just it. It's like, I always laugh. It's like, it's like, okay, you know what? I even tell people, I'll make it easy for you. Don't believe in God. Don't believe in Jesus. Just throw all that out the window. If it makes you feel better, throw all that out the window. Just do me a favor. Work on yourself. Work on your character. Work on your character development. Work on your personality skills. Like, do your inner work. You don't want to believe in God? No problem. But here's the thing. You go on that path long enough, you're going to find God on that path no matter what. Regardless. You start building your character. You start wanting to be a better person. You start wanting to contribute to your community in a positive way. Guaranteed, God is at the other end of that path, whether you like it or not. But I'll also guarantee that if you start doing that in your life, you'll be ready for God when you come across him on your path. That almost sounds like something Buddha would say. but that's so I'm just like, you know what? I'm not interested in convincing you to worship God or to believe in Jesus. I'm not, you know what? Those things are important, but you know what? The person, you as a person, to me, is more important. And as a person, I would rather see you work on growing and making yourself better, as opposed to giving up on those things and start reading the Bible and start quoting scripture every day. I would rather you throw your Bible out and work on character development, because I know that sooner or later, when you get to a certain point, because you've worked hard on your character and you've worked hard on your own personal inner development, all of that other stuff is going to come out. So yeah, I don't care if you want to believe or not. It doesn't matter. Go work on yourself. That is more important. And yeah, everything else is going to fall into place. And I think that's probably, I think that gives people more comfort than telling them that they have to believe in Jesus or they're going to go to hell. I think I look at what the Son of Man did teach, and one of the things that was always paramount on his mind when he was teaching is he wanted to ease men's souls. If pounding Christianity down your throat does not ease your soul, then I'd just as soon not do it. But if giving you the skills to work on your own character and personality development eases your soul, then you know what? Go grab a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, start reading and start working on yourself. And I'd sooner help somebody with that than to help them study Bible verses or even read the Urantia book, which I highly recommend. And
I told you the Zen I came up with, right? Did I? I don't know. I'll tell our viewers. Let's see, how does it go? I got to remember it now. Right. It's the moral. Okay, the moral atheist proves every moment that he is God. That I can go along with. You know that? I could go along with that. If the God that you are emulating exhibits community responsibility, responsibility to family, responsibility to community, and responsibility to self, to me, that's a starting point. That's what that is. I'd look at somebody that was on that path, and I'd just be like, "How are you doing so far?" Well, you know what? I was at the rec center last night. I volunteered 5 hours and helped everybody out. And then, and I donated to the local curling rink so that they could get ice because I got the extra money. I'm just like, you know what? Stay on that path. Don't go off that path. Stay right there. Sooner or later, something is going to take place, and you will make that spiritual leap that is necessary. There'll be enough people that are going to come in front of you, and enough people will say, "God bless you," and that sooner or later you're going to begin to start taking it seriously. Seriously, all the "God bless yous." I'll tell you that messes people up that are operating from a wholly altruistic position. Altruism for themselves and not for the glory of God. Sooner that's breaks down barriers in their minds. It's like, God bless you.
Thank you. We needed that. And you just keep saying that shit to them over and over again. Sooner or later, their mind, they're going to be like, what is this whole fucking God shit? It's not much, but at least it's a question. And questions are the first step in the road to true spirituality. If you're not asking questions, you are not on a spiritual journey. Sorry. That's how the spiritual journey works. It starts with the first question. And it's the first question that draws the thought adjuster close to you. You start asking questions, thought adjusters say, whoa, I've got a live one. then you perform some altruistic work, give the poor kid at school half of your lunch. Thought adjuster's like, yes, opening. And fucking boom, he takes his seat in your pineal gland. And then he goes to work. Starts organizing everything, getting you ready for your ascension, which is what it is, ascension. And again, we're fortunate on this planet again because Michael poured the spirit of truth out on this planet. Every normal mind on this planet gets a thought adjuster, regardless of the potential of fusion or not. So yeah, everybody's got a thought adjuster. Everybody. You know, some people will not put the effort in to fuse with their thought adjuster, and they probably won't. And the thought adjuster will just move on and go inhabit somebody else's mind, but keeps all your good memories, tosses out the bad ones. Anything worth saving is saved. Anything that's not worth saving is relegated to the trash heap. Below paradise is this whirlwind of debris. And what that is that is all the garbage that is of no value to the universe. That's all the garbage. That's God's recycling plant. It's all getting recycled. It shows up in universes as patches of matter that are potential galaxies. That's the Father exits the recycled material back out into the universe, adds his creativity to it because of the energy of experiences that we bring back to paradise. When we fuse with our thought adjuster, we bring back experiences. Those experiences have energy. They are matter. Energy and matter are the same thing. We know this from physics. And so when we bring those experiences to paradise, we're actually bringing energy to feed God. And then that energy is, some of that is put into the recycling bits of the universe, kind of like when you recycle metal. You don't straight up recycle metal, iron, steel. You take some of that recycled steel and you mix it with new steel, and then you get more. You're taking the new steel further. And so you end up, that is how God recycles. And then that gets transported through time and space into a universe. And it just shows up. The creator sons never know where this is going to show up. It's like a patch of spice in the Dune novels, on Dune. You never know where it's going to show up. So that's why they had flyers flying around trying to find the spice. If you ever read the Dune novels, one of my favorite books. And so a creator son like Michael has these, what are they, power handlers? Anyways, they're beings, and they are going out and they're looking for this material that the Father has spread out in a universe to make a galaxy. And they go looking, and they can smell matter. They can smell it. And they're floating around out in space. And as soon as they smell it and they find it and they can mark that location, same way, sort of like a dog pissing on a tree. So be like, yeah, we got matter here. And then that attracts other beings to come and start doing their work. The power centers, they start to turning. In the center, they will calculate where's the exact center of this mass. It's never where they think it is, but they calculate it, and then they find that center of that mass, and then they start the turn. They start the angular motion. And in the first million years, it hardly looks like anything's moving. It doesn't even look like it. Give it another 5 million years, you see some slight movement. After 1 billion years, now you can almost see that it's moving. And then after about 4 billion years, now a galaxy is starting to form. And now planets, and now the suns, you start coalescing the energies. They start bringing everything together, and then boom, they compress everything down into a tight ball of matter, and then they create a micro Big Bang, and it's like boom, galaxy. And then suns are born, planets are born, and then all that other dust. Now, individually, now that everything is organized, individually, they go out and they start making the solar systems. Again, more angular momentum, and just get things turning. And once things start turning, things start happening. And then you got then you throw gravity, some magnetism in the mix, and now you've got gravity. Which, by the way, gravity doesn't work the way that we think it is. Gravity is not a pull. Gravity is a push. Wrap your mind around that one for a while. First time that theory was presented to me, I kid you not, I mean, I already knew the theory about gravity being a pull. We learned all that in engineering. When I came across this theory of gravity being a push, and Buddy showed all the calculations and the models of how it worked, I was like, that makes way more fucking sense than the equations that we learned. Like the equations that they use for gravity, they've got to constantly put constants in place in order for the equations to work. When you've got to start making up variables in your math to make the math work, you're not doing math anymore. Now you're just making shit up, and you're just trying to make yourself look smart. But this guy showed his equations, and he didn't have to add any constants in. It all flowed from start to finish, straight up calculus. Nothing complex about it at all, straight up. I was like, wow. Same thing with Nissim Hiram, with his theory of the connected universe. It's like, you go and mainstream science, you look at their calculations for how the universe works, so many constants, so many made up variables. They're using all this shit to prop up their math. And then they fill a chalkboard all up, and it all looks complicated, so you must think it's right. Has to be right. It looks complicated, so it must be right. No, it's all bullshit. I mean, it's like, if you've got to do like special math training in order to follow that shit, you're not doing math. You're doing something else. I mean, you should be able to solve the whole universe using calculus, period. And guess what? Nissim Hiram did it using pure calculus, nothing else, just calculus. He solved the equation for the whole universe. And then he wrote it out and broke it down. It's just a small little equation. And you know how he did it? It was ingenious how he did it. And I don't know why nobody thought of it before. He took the smallest unit of matter that we know about, which is called the Planck. And we know it exists. It does exist. We know it exists. He took that small unit of measurement, the Planck, and he started building up his equations. And one of the first things that he did, it just totally embarrassed all the scientists, because it's like, what the fuck are you doing? What he did is he took these little Plancks and the energy that is said to be in a Planck, which is minuscule at best. And he was like, okay, how many Plancks does it take to fill a cubic centimeter? So he figured it out. This is how many Plancks it takes to fill a cubic centimeter. The number is like some crazy number by like 10 to the 43rd power, some damn thing like that. So, I mean, it's like, 10 with 43 zeros behind it. That's a lot of fucking zeros. That's not even a number that you could even name. And so it's a big, big number. And he was like, okay, so that now he's got all of his Plancks into a cubic centimeter. And he's like, okay, science says that these Plancks have energy. It's only a little wee bit. It ain't a hell of a lot, but it's there. It's a joule, but it's displaced by 20 zeros. So, it's 0.0 something. And so he was like, okay, let's take that energy. And actually, it's displaced by probably about over 100 zeros. So it's very small, negative 100. And so he's like, okay, let's plug that into our equation. And let's see how much energy we got in a cubic centimeter. And so he made the calculation for how much energy is in a cubic centimeter of space using the Planck as a variable. It was a number that was off the charts for the amount of energy that is in a cubic centimeter of space. And that's when he, after a few years of dealing with that, because it was just a crazy number, he began to realize that that energy that he was calculating was not really energy. It was information, or at least the potential for information. And that was the basis for his connected universe calculations. And it goes into black holes. His calculations can calculate a black hole without all the voodoo math. Super simple. Broke it down into small Plancks and square centimeters, and then he was able to calculate all the energy in a black hole. And it was interesting because the scientists were only counting the perimeter of a black hole because they said there was nothing in the center. And so, so they were like, where's all this energy coming from in a black hole? It's like, this is all the matter that exists. Nielsen was like, well, doesn't your other science say that there's no such thing as dead space? There's always energy in all space. And what about your dark matter? And so he was like, okay. So he took in the calculation for the whole surface of the black hole. But not only that, he was able to calculate the depth of a black hole. Once you took all of those numbers into consideration, voila. Suddenly you have a number that is closer to the amount of energy that is in a black hole.
Okay. There's an interesting cartoon. I don't know if you know, have heard of Sidney Harris, the scientific cartoonist. or not. But he wrote a
No.
book, and I had the book, and I do not know where it is right now, but it's hilarious. The title of it, it's a book of his cartoons, and the title of it is "You Want Proof? I'll Give You Proof," and it's two physicists brawling at a chalkboard on the cover of this thing.
You love.
Because he's a scientist, he's like, it's like a caricaturist. He draws all these little things. He's seen all this stuff, and he can just tweak it just a little further than. So the thing I wanted to tell you about was two astronomers or astrophysicists are looking at some data or looking at a picture or something, and one of them says to the other, "It's black and it looks like a hole." I'd say it's a black hole.
Sometimes I think that's exactly what ends up happening. It's just, it's like so far away from any relevance to a physical, like to an actual, to any attribute that phenomenon exhibits.
Yeah.
It's just
I could describe dozens of his cartoons, and they're varied. There's mathematics, astronomy, computer science. Like in one of the computer science ones, there's and it's set in like the 60s or 70s or maybe the early 80s, when the computers looked like they were big, right? Like the size of a washing machine type thing. And the guy is standing by this row of equipment, and Sidney Harris drew the row of equipment, and the one he's standing by, he says, I still say this is a clothes dryer. Because I think there was one that kind of looked like that. A computer. He just like Gary Larson in The Far Side. He took these things and he just tweaked them that little bit more into the realm of being ridiculous but funny. Sidney Harris did that for science.
Yeah, I love that shit. Oh, I got one more part I wanted to add. I just remembered from the vision. At the end of her speech, still kind of had the cloak of the creator still hanging over her. She said, let the earth be purified. And all of a sudden, these bombs of dust exploded in the atmosphere. And it spread and it was like this white gold that came raining down on everything. And then this is part that was curious. The next day, I find out, or the next evening, I find out that they had gone down. They had the rumor is that they've gone down into the tunnels under the Vatican, and this all happened within the last 2 weeks. They had gone down into the tunnels of the Vatican, and there are tunnels down there. There's one tunnel that they described was a 60-meter wide tunnel that went all the way to Jerusalem. And it was filled from floor to ceiling on both sides with gold. They never knew there was ever that much gold on the planet. Nobody knew. That's how much gold was down there. It was just a ridiculous amount of gold. And the kicker is that what they also found with the gold was ledgers of where the gold was came from, or where it was stolen from. And this is how nasty these fuckers are. The gold that they stole from Libya, they melted down and re-smelted with the Libyan seal. The gold that came from Libya was melted down and poured into bars with the Libyan seal. The gold that was stolen from the United States melted down, and the U.S. seal was on it. And this went on and on and on for every country where the gold had come from. How fucked is that? I was like, that is the most fucked up thing. That they would take the time to make sure that wherever that gold came from, it was marked so that they knew what country it came from. What is the purpose of that? And also, in case people don't know, you can take pure gold and you can, through a process, you can turn it into what they called monoatomic gold. Thing is about, and this monoatomic gold has the distinct property of being able to purify organic life. That when monatomic gold is introduced to a biological unit, that gold will carry all the toxins out of the body in one shot. It's probably not a pleasant experience, but it will flush the body. That would mean that all of a sudden everyone around the world will be puking and shitting all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That would be messed up.
You know, all of the stuff you describe is so close to what my quantum androids and my science fiction stories would do. They would do all. I mean, the discoveries and the announcements and the stuff. You know, it's like, yeah, I can just see them finding out about all this stuff and saying like, oh, well, there was this stuff in the Vatican. I'm just waiting to see what they find in the Vatican.
What they find in the Vatican will destroy Catholicism forever. There will be no more Catholicism. What will be left in its wake is just Christianity, which goes back to a point that you made before. And I had thought of it, but then I forgot it. And now I remember it. And your friend was like, was saying that there is no difference between Catholicism and Christianity.
They were surprised to find out that people think there is, that Christians think there is.
There is. Yeah. Christians don't just think that there is.
That it was a separate religion, like they called it a separate religion. She was astonished when she heard somebody claim that.
No, because it's true. Christianity is separate from Catholicism. Christianity has nothing to do with Catholicism. Catholicism is about ritual and idol worship. That's Catholicism. In a nutshell, there is very little encouragement for character development in Catholicism. It's do it this way or you're excommunicated. That's where Catholicism stands. In Christianity, and we're talking like real Christianity, not Christianity light, people are encouraged to do better. They don't outright call it character development, but in Christianity, you're always expected to do better. And you're encouraged to do better when you have a proper pastor. of the church. And I've only actually come across a few proper pastors for a church, and or pastors. And these were pastors that were genuinely concerned for their parishioners, to where they would like go and visit and have, private talks with them and help them. And he felt that that was like part of his job. And he used to make the joke. He was like, well, he's like, technically you all are paying me, so I might as well earn my keep. Through like the Sunday donations and what have you. So I liked him. He was a nice guy. I mean, he was always visiting people, and in the hospital, he was always like dropping in on people and just being just a genuine friend to everybody, and encouraged you to, if you were down, he helped cheer you up. Yeah. And and if you needed help with repairing a roof on your house and you didn't know who to ask, he would find someone and he would ask for you. That was always something that blew me away. Yeah, I mean, I was on the receiving end of that, because he came to me and asked me to do stuff for people, because, well, I'm talented. And and he always knew I wasn't gonna say no to him. I might have said no to the person if they came and asked me themselves, but I wasn't gonna say no to the pastor. And he fucking well knew it too. I'm pretty sure he did. But he was a good pastor. And then I met bad ones that just would just want to preach hellfire. That's all they would want to do, is just like, tell you how bad of a person you are. That's just a bad pastor. But yeah, there is a difference between Catholicism and Christianity. And we'll soon see the end of Catholicism. And all the people that are involved that are Catholics, like we're talking like the boots on the ground people that, have their church, they have their parishioners, they will reorganize themselves into something better, is what they will do. They will get rid of the idols out of their church. And the reason why they'll get rid of all those idols out of their church is because they will find out why they were put there to begin with. And so there's going to be a huge cleaning out of that. That's going to take years, because once it does trickle down to the people and they find out that, the statue of Mary that they've all been praying to is actually Isis, they're all going to lose their fucking minds. Oh yeah, when they find out that Jesus, the image of Jesus on a cross is Luciferian, they're really going to lose their fucking minds. Oh yeah, it's all going to be insane. There's going to be a huge reinventing of the church, and all the people at the top, they're going to be all gone. And since they are all going to be gone, there will be nothing from the grassroots movement. There'll be nothing that will stop the grassroots movement to reinvent the Catholic Church. And that will probably be a beautiful thing, because I mean, as a organization, it's got the communication lines, it's got all the infrastructure, and Michael is not in the habit of destroying the infrastructure of anything, because Michael understands that it's not the tools that are evil, it's how the tools were used that are evil.
Absolutely.
And so Michael understands that. So there will be a whole reinvent. There will be no more Vatican City. Okay, that's history. That's going to be in the history books. There'll be no more London City. London City, that's gone. See you later. And there'll be London City actually might get redesignated to a different to something different. It might remain as an autonomous city, but it might end up being something different. But the Vatican, I'm not even sure if that will even be left standing. Because once the people find out what they have been doing with their children behind those walls, I highly doubtful that those walls will stay up for very long. People will tear them down. They'll lose their fucking minds is what they're going to do. And yeah, that's yeah, we're in for quite the shit show, but it's not going to happen all at once.
No, I shouldn't think so.
No.
And I'm thinking I want to run by, we should maybe start winding it down and within 2.5 hours or something. I've been thinking about this for a little while. The what it would take to cleanse those temples. I'm thinking, well, let's see. I'd want you and Deb and probably Luke Skywalker and Master Yoda.
I think
to redo the power dynamic on that thing.
Well, they've already removed removed the gold. That was a big piece of the puzzle because that was a major component in their spiritual circuitry.
Mm.
Yeah, to have this gold down there. The gold. It's one of the reasons why they had the gold labeled from which country that where it came from, because the gold would embody the vibration of that particular part of the earth where the gold came from.
Yeah.
And so if you have something you can hold in your hand that is the pure vibration of that area where the gold came from, then you would be able to manipulate the vibration of that area through the gold. Kind of like voodoo, like a voodoo doll type.
Gold isn't just for electrical communication.
Yeah. So it's see, all this stuff that we know of in magic and witchcraft, it all works. But because it's all just tools. That's all it is. They're just tools. It's how those tools are used that determines whether they're good or bad. Are you being constructive with the tools, or are you being destructive with the tools? An excavator can dig a hole for a foundation to be poured for a building, or it can be used to destroy the building itself. It depends on how you want to use it. You know, and in some cases it might take two different operators. Maybe the guy who knows how to dig the hole for the foundation doesn't know how to tear down a building. Same tool, different operator.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's how these things work. And if you use these tools with the creator in mind, then they become very powerful tools. But if you corrupt these tools and their use, that energy will come back around on you, and it will manifest itself in your life in ways that you might not like. Most of the time, at least the way it was like in the past, is that misuse of tools would take their toll on the physical body. And then that would begin to reflect the toll that it's taking on the spirit. And that still holds true today, except if these things taking place over a lifetime, they now take place over a couple of weeks or months. It just, it comes back and bites you in the ass a lot faster than it used to, because things are speeding up.
Yep. I'll just finish with this. There's one more reason, I guess, why talking about these folks I'm talking with on Facebook. There's one more reason that I'm probably not going to just blister them with some scathing thing about they, and what was it? It was something to do with how you said they are growing as well. It has to do with their development and where they are, and I don't remember the exact words I was going to use, but it would be a disservice to just rip them a new one over something like that, especially when it was so uncharacteristic, I thought, of them to make the comments they did. I usually their comments are in far better faith than that. And I mean, just write them a short little note and say, we'll talk more after the 20th.
And the thing is that is where we are at now. I mean, there is nothing left to do except pray. And that's basically all I've been telling people on Twitter. Pray. There's nothing left for us to do. I mean, we did our part by showing up in Washington, D.C. That was our walk-on part in the war. We made our cameo, and now it's time to sit back and wait. So that was the people's contribution to the war. And Trump needed that. That was an integral part of the plan. Everybody's like mad because it's like, well, we should have known better. We should have known there was going to be a false flag. It's like, of course you should have known that there was a false flag. I knew there was going to be a false flag. But here's the thing, the interesting thing about that. It's happened more than once. Let's put it that way.
I would have suspected, had I been in that position to have actually physically gone, I would have suspected there would have been a false flag. I would have gone anyway had I decided to do so.
And that therein is brings me to my point. I knew it was a false flag. You knew it was a false flag. Why didn't we say something? Every time I wanted to tweet it on Twitter to be like, people, this is a false flag, stay the fuck away, I was held back. My hand was held back, and it was just always like, no, live stream. And my hand was always held back from the keyboard. And I couldn't understand why. It's like, this is important information. People should know this. But it was just always like, no. And so I didn't. And then after the event happened, I was like, I understood why I couldn't say anything. Is because it was part of the plan for the false flag to happen. Because look at what happened after. The left lost their goddamn fucking mind. Yeah. There was riots. There's just property destruction. There was this. And I'm just like, did you forget what the fuck happened over the summer? I was like, are you people out of your goddamn mind? That was a fight at a fucking, Thanksgiving dinner at somebody's house compared to what went down over the summer. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy shit. It's like you had people carving out parts of the city and calling themselves autonomous zones. You had business owners terrified to go and to open their businesses. You had businesses destroyed. You had police stations burnt down. Fuck, there wasn't even a fire at the Capitol Hill protest. Not even a fucking match was lit. and they automatically started calling out for insurrection. And I just sat there and I just laughed. And I was like, you people are stupid. I was like, you have no idea. Because I knew what Trump was going to do. Oh, insurrection, you say. Tell me more, you say. Okay, no problem. Insurrection Act it is. We'll bring in all kinds of, if that's what you want, people, sure, why not? Oh, you mean to tell me 5,000 troops isn't enough? No problem, I'll bring in 10,000 more. They get to 15. What? 15 not enough? You're telling me you want what? 20,000 more? No problem. Whatever you fuckers want, you got. Trump gave them whatever the fuck they wanted. Oh, they're the ones that asked for the fence around the Capitol, by the way. They were like, yeah, they suggested it on the House floor. And Trump was like, a fence, you say? A wall, you say? Oh, no problem. We can do that. I'm just like, these people have gone off their goddamn fucking mind. And like the hogs, going in and out of the fucking trap. These dumb cunts are fucking walking back and forth to Capitol Hill, and they're just like, oh, checkpoint, here's my badge. I work in the library. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're some proud. You feel safe, do you? Yeah.
You want DNA sample too? Here's my idea. No, what was it? Napoleon? I think it's in Napoleon or somebody said, never interfere with an enemy in the process of destroying themselves.
Oh, fuck no. Fuck no. I just, and that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm just like, and now then I realized that's why I wasn't supposed to say anything. And I imagine I wasn't the only one whose hand was stayed from the keyboard.
Yeah, no, I told plenty of people afterwards that I corrected them. The peaceful protesters outside were patriots. The ones who did violence were terrorists, false flag and all that.
You know what I love though? But here's the thing.
Yeah, so.
Here's the thing. There were the people, I mean, there were patriots and Antifa mixed together. Here's the difference. And this is where the mainstream media cuts it off. I got to see it. There was this person that was standing like on the side somewheres in the chamber, and they panned the camera across the whole chamber. And what did you see? Yeah, you seen that fucktard up on the desk with the horns dancing like an idiot, and you seen other people fucking destroying things. But over here in the corner, there was a group of people that were praying. Down here in the bottom corner, there was another group of people praying. There were people in there praying off in the corners by themselves. They had nothing to do with with the rest of the shit show, and there they were praying. And here's the kicker. They came in through the velvet ropes, and they walked back out through the velvet ropes. Those were the patriots. That's what the patriots were doing when they were in the building at Capitol Hill. All the non-patriots, they're the ones going crazy. And mainstream media isn't showing you that one. But yeah, that happened, by the way. And yeah, and also the police let them in. I mean, in case anybody's doesn't know yet, for the Capitol riots, for number one, the police opened the doors and let them in. Okay. Two, there's video footage of Antifa people already inside the building passing weapons out to the people outside that didn't bring weapons. And there's also another video of Antifa inside videoing out of the people coming in. So it's like, and they're up on the second floor. How the fuck did they get up there so fast? Because they were already there. And the other one, shit. Well, yeah, one of the arrests is a guy. He was dressed up in mega paraphernalia. He's he's like a leader of an Antifa cell. It's like these things were not that hard to prove. So they pick him up, and it turns out that he's a leader in the Antifa group. And it's like, what the fuck, buddy?
Be one of the biggest inside jobs in history is when we find out what because who enabled that, right?
Oh, it gets even better. There's a video of the same Antifa leader being given a private tour on Capitol Hill a few days before. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, these people are beyond stupid. It's a, man, you're not making the best criminals. The other one was you had a guard. He's like, God, he's like, stay back, stay back. And then he turns around and runs up the stairs. Now, the cameraman is not in front of the guard running up the stairs. He's behind the guard. Okay? Now, and the cameraman is running. You think to yourself, okay, so there was a cameraman behind the guard. That guard was so familiar with that cameraman that he didn't even look at the cameraman when he was running up the stairs, and he ran by him like really close. And he didn't even glance sideways at the cameraman. It's like, how friendly are you with that particular person? I mean, I got to assume that the person holding the camera is a protester, right? You would think that a security officer in that position, I mean, you would think that he would be keeping one eye on him and one eye on the crowd at the same time. And so there's that discrepancy. It's like, who took that video? I mean, it looked like a staged video is what it looked like to me. And I'm just like, well, shit me drawers. And it's always so hard to tell between a professional camera or your phone nowadays, because our phones are so fucking good. You don't even know anymore. The only way you can tell, the only thing that beats our phone cameras now is wide angle lenses for distance. That's it. And you're basically looking at a physical size of a lens is being the difference. So yeah, the whole thing, yeah, it's quite staged. And on top of that, this is the part that I'm loving the most. Trump was, I think, an hour or an hour and a half late for his speech. Pretty sure it was an hour late for his speech. Antifa pulled the trigger 30 minutes early. Trump was still in the middle of his speech when they started storming. So that tells me that they were on a schedule, and Trump was supposed to already be done speaking. But because he decided to be an hour late for his own speech, they did not correct themselves on their schedule, because they can't exactly use radios, and they don't dare use their apps, text apps, because in a situation like that, they know it. All communication is being monitored by Homeland Security. So they couldn't take the chance of texting each other and be like, Trump's still talking, stand down. You can't send that text. You could try to get to everybody and physically tell them, but did you see the crowd? There was standing room only. There was no moving through that crowd, so there they were, screwed. And from what I've heard from people that were at that event, like cell service, forget it. Even if you did send out a text, the person would probably get it 10 minutes later because of all the data traffic that would be going on in the area at that time. So, yeah, that's what happened on the Hill for anybody that wasn't paying attention. It was a staged event. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. The evidence is there. Go find it. It's all on the internet. Use DuckDuckGo, don't use Google. Because Google is only going to give you CNN's version.
Yep. I use DuckDuckGo for everything.
I use Google.
Yeah, no. I have to ask though. It's. Do you think it's a bit odd that DuckDuckGo in like Safari or something? You know, you can go and choose like your browser or whatever. And isn't it a bit odd that you can go in and DuckDuckGo is one of the choices? Like there's 5 choices: Bing, Google, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. I think you're supposed to, if you want to really be anonymous and free from tracking, that you probably go to DuckDuckGo's website and then search, or I don't know what. But somebody I talked to said he thought it was a bit suspicious that DuckDuckGo was an option that you could choose for your default search engine in Safari. I don't know. I don't know enough about computers to know whether that's a worry or not. But,
I find DuckDuckGo to be good enough to do what I want it to do, only because they're just using a simple algorithm, and that's why their search is not as good as Google. Google uses a complex algorithm and also tailors to, your past searches. So it has an idea. Problem is with Google is that the problem that I have is that not so much that they're trying to censor content from me, it's that they use my metadata to make money and they don't give me any of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd just as soon use a search engine that doesn't keep my metadata. Because, if I'm not making money off of it, then why should they? Yeah. So that's my attitude about things. It's the same reason why I won't wear a Nike shirt or a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola shirt. It's, even though I might use these products, they're not paying me to advertise for them. In fact, I sometimes even go out of my way to just remove their logos off of anything that I might buy that is their brand. I'll just remove their logos and just be like, fuck you, you're not paying me for this shit. And besides that, if you knew what the Nike check mark was, you wouldn't want it on yourself anyways. Symbols have power, people. Symbols have power. And symbols, again, tools. You can either use them for constructive means, or you can use them for destructive means. And if you're in touch with the creative energies of the universe, then you're more apt, then you're going to use them for constructive means. There's no reason to use them for destructive means. I mean, leave the destruction part up to God. He knows he knows which part of his infrastructure needs to be torn down and rebuilt, or which parts can be, renovated and put back together. We don't know. God knows. So let God take care of the maintenance of the universe. Let him do the destructing part. We stay on the creative side of things. We stay creative and constructive. That's how I look at it. If there's something that needs to be destroying, let God destroy it. Because he built it, he knows the best way to take it apart.
Leave it to the professionals.
Leave it to the professionals, exactly. Leave that shit to the professionals.
All right, well, we're coming up on 5 o'clock. I think we've been at this for almost 3 hours. So
Yeah,
off.
I think some people have figured out that it's the last hour that's usually the best.
Oh, I know. How do we? Video editing software, like Smarter Every Day. I watch him all the time, and you can tell that he made longer videos and chopped them up into segments of various subjects and so on, things like that. I'm not at the point where I'm going to dive right into doing that yet, but yeah, I don't know. So
I think that's something. Well, I'll tell you how the YouTube algorithm works is that if you took our Sunday talk and you divided it down into like smaller segments and posted them on YouTube, and you posted like 1 or 2 a day, that actually will begin to generate an income from YouTube as opposed to one video a week, because YouTube pays by eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like you could get a bunch of views on a video, and like you could get 1 million views on one video, and you'll get a payout on that one video, but the payout is higher if you had 100,000 views across 10 videos.
Okay.
You see what I mean? That's how YouTube pays. Is that so even though you got the same 1 million views, you spread it out over 10 videos, you get 10 times the amount, even though it's less views per video. I know, that's how they do it. And yeah, anyways, crash course on YouTube.
All right, Krow. So I'll let you sign off, and then I'll sign off.
I'm Krow.
I'm Peter, and this has been P&K Q&A. Oh, for January 17th, if you didn't catch it at the beginning. I think we didn't say it at the beginning.
January.
I'll get it right eventually. All right, take care, folks. Thanks for watching.
Salute.